So today we're going to talk about how to get a seller to agree to do business with you up front. Imagine that. Today's episode was actually inspired by a question that came in. So we're going to play that here in a minute. But just a quick reminder, if you have not been to our website, head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. If you've ever wondered what to say to a seller, when to say it, how to say it, the tone, the questions, hey, this is my gift to you. Word for word, this is the exact script that I've used to lock up over 1,300 deals. And this exact script has been responsible probably for thousands or tens of thousands of deals across the country from my most successful students using it. So head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script to go ahead and get a free copy of that. All right, so let's jump in today's question. Let's play the music.
My question is, I'm doing a lot of cold calling, and I follow Brett's script. And my question is when I pick up the phone and go through the process, typically we go through condition of the property as well as the rapport building process, and I don't know where is the right time to have the discussion about the agenda of the call, as well as giving them the opportunity to say no, because I feel like we've gotten too far down the line to go through that process. Do you have any feedback or guidance on how to do that?
So great question. Thanks for sending that in. And today I'm going to give you a little bit of background on what the agenda or upfront agreement is, and then also giving the seller permission to say no. So what is the upfront agreement and agenda? So one of the things I love about the upfront agreement and agenda, and by the way, I learned this from one of my mentors, Derek, when I was working at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, selling Viagra of all things. And that was, you want to set a path. You want to lay the tracks for the train whenever you are talking to a seller. They don't understand the process. There's some confusion. There's fear. They don't know what to do. So someone's going to have to take leadership in this conversation. Now, this is a very, very, if you do this, right, it takes some skill, but once you learn it, man, it is awesome because you have to do it in a gentle way. So you want to lay the track so that the seller knows exactly where the train is going. When you do this, it's going to give the seller some clarity and comfort so that they know, okay, first step A, then step B, then step C, then step D. Okay, so for example, in this case scenario, I'll ask, okay, who's involved in the conversation and who's involved in the decision and all these things, what's your timeline? And so once the seller, comes to that, I will then make an appointment with a seller, or have someone on my team makes an appointment with a seller. And I'll say, okay, Mr. Seller, so what I'm hearing is that you and your wife are both involved in the decision. Is that correct? Yes. Great. Right. What I'd like to do is, first thing I'll do is I'll come out and I'll look at some, values around the area and see what I can pay. Then I'll come out to the property. I'll meet you. You'll get to know me. I'll get to know you, right? We'll talk about what you're looking for the property, some of the goals that you're looking for, your timeline, what kind of stuff you want to leave behind, what that process will look like. Then if you think there's a fit and if we're all on the same terms, we'll sign an agreement. And then we go to title and escrow to get this closed. Now, at any point, Mr. Seller, if you are uncomfortable or you don't want to do business, right? If you feel like I'm not a fit, okay, will you tell me no, right? Will you tell me that I'm not a fit? I'd like to save my time and your time. And I just want to let you know that there's absolutely no point where, you have to tell me that you're going to think about it if the answer is no, right? And on the other part, if the answer is yes, I'd love to be able to do business, right? And so get them, what I'd like to eliminate though is I'm going to think about it. Because usually when people say I'm going to think about it, usually just means no. So could we agree that we're going to either do a yes or a no when I come out there? Are we prepared to do business today? And so that's a very bold question, but if you give the seller permission to say no, you're going to let that air out of the balloon and you're going to relieve the stress. So the question says, okay, the question from today was, Todd, when do I ask that? When do I use that upfront agreement? And, sometimes in a conversation, it might be a little awkward. Okay. So I've taken some notes here on when the time to do this is. And so if you noticed, the caller asked, okay, I'm following a cold call script and it's not the right time, right? It doesn't feel right. And so you never, in my opinion, you should never try to set an upfront agreement on a cold call, because cold calling is really marketing. It's not a sales call. You're usually not going to close that call on that initial cold call. So what we want to do is do a cold call, and hopefully you're having somebody else cold call. You may be doing it yourself, and I understand that. But we're going to set up initial call where you're just saying, okay, are you interested in selling? And you're gathering information. That lead may be passed to you by somebody on your team or a service that you're using, okay? But I'm talking now on the second call, because on a cold call, I could tell you it doesn't fit, right? So for me, I'm going to either, after a cold call, set up an in-person appointment, or I'm going to set up a follow-up appointment. And on that follow-up phone appointment or that in-person appointment, I'm going to set that upfront agreement. Now, a little bit about why we do this, right? We do this because the seller doesn't know where to go, right? They are nervous. They don't know, when to say yes, when to say no, how to sign the contract, and they're not aware of that process. If you lay the tracks and you set it up front and they agree that they are going to make a decision, and then you give them the permission to say no, you are much more likely to get a yes or a no. What you're trying to eliminate is, I am going to think about it. Now, does this still happen? Yes. But you can eliminate about 60 to 65% of the I'm going to think about if you do the upfront agreement. Okay, so go ahead and try that. Next time you're meeting with a seller and say, Mr. Seller, I'll tell you what, is your spouse going to be there? Great. Hey, one of the things that when I come out there is I want to let you know it's completely okay to say no, right? I'll come out there, I'll look at the house, we'll talk about a price if it's a fit, right? And it's, and if you don't like me for any reason, you can say no. On the other hand, if you'd like to do business, are you in a position to be able to do business today? Yes, great. What I'd like to eliminate, though, is I'm going to think about it. So can you make sure your spouse is there? And if we can come to terms, can we do business today? Boom. Ask that question, right? Keep it casual, keep it friendly, but be crystal clear that you are trying to eliminate, I am going to think about. Now, I do want to be, transparent with you, and that sometimes sellers are going to say, you know what, I still want to think about it, but you're still going to save your time. You're still going to push people over the line. And even when a seller says, you know what, I'm going to think about it, you might say, hey, Mr. Seller, before I came here, we agreed that it was a yes or a no. Underneath, are you just thinking no? And I just want to let you know that's okay, right? You could totally tell me no. What that will do is actually flush out an objection, right? They'll tell you that what's in their mind that they're not telling you. And because you asked for permission up front, and now they're saying they want to think about it, now they're forced to tell you what they're thinking that they're not telling you. So you may get the deal now, and maybe you may not, but now you're one inch closer. Okay. Now, very important. I'm going to make a comment here. You said that I feel like I'm too far along in the process to do the upfront agreement. So don't confuse too far along in the process with fear, right? Sometimes you're like, well, I feel like I'm too far along with it. I'm too deep in the seller to give them an upfront agreement. Not true. Not true. As a matter of fact, one of the things that you can always reset and do an upfront agreement. So let's say you're off the phone, you're getting back on the phone, and you can say, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I know that we've been talking for a while here, and it seems like, that we are kind of stuck in this spot. So if it's okay, I just want to give you permission. If this is not a fit for any reason, I want you to be able to tell me no, right? On the other hand, right, I'd like to know what it's going to take for us to decide whether or not to do business. Right. But what I'd like to eliminate right here is this middle ground. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe what's holding you back? And then I'd like to try to eliminate this, this whole maybe thing, because I may not be the best fit for you, and maybe I can help you in another direction. So use that and pull it away and reset. Obviously, you can change the wording here to make it more natural. But again, get crystal clear, be firm, and ask for that commitment, right? Try it and see how it goes. Now, sometimes when you're doing the upfront agreement and you try a certain way and the seller, actually, let me tell you a story. So I'm dealing with this guy one time. His name was Jeff. Okay. And this is actually when I was going on appointments myself. This property was in Oceanside, California. And I do this upfront agreement. And he says to me, you know what? Enough with the sales tactics, right? Just let's get to the point. And so every time I tried to use this, right, he was like, enough of the tactics. So I said, okay. I said, fine. I said, let me ask you this. How would you like to see this go? And he goes, I just want you to give me a price. And then I just want to tell you, yes, it's good or no, it's not. I said, okay. Now, ironically, he gave me the upfront agreement. I let him take control, right? I said, okay, fine. So I stopped setting the agreements. I let him set it, all right? Needless to say, we got the contract, okay, made about $32,000 on that deal. So thank you, Jeff, for driving the process. That was awesome. So I'm going to summarize here is that number one, you want to use an upfront agreement. Number two, the reason why we do it is to eliminate the maybes, right? You want a yes or a no that you could save some time. And also you're going to flush out objections. You shouldn't do it on a cold call, right? You should do it either on the follow-up call or on the in-person appointment, or at the very least as the setup for the in-person appointment before you go out there. Don't confuse too far along in the process with being actually scared to ask it. You can always reset it or do it on the next phone call. Try it, see how it goes, right? If it works, if it doesn't work the first time, try it a different way. All right. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the seller, especially the drivers, are going to give you a hard time about that. Then I'll say, okay, you tell me how you like to see this process work, right? Let them lay out the tracks. Boom. Now you got it. Get the contract, lock it up for as low as you can, sell it for as high as you can, and now you got a huge paycheck. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love the upfront agreement. Great question. If you have not been to our website, head on over to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com/script. By the way, if you want to download that script, if you have not bought the No Limit Selling System, this is the exact sales system that I've trained my salespeople to lock up deals, right? All the objections, all the mindsets, all of the principles, all of the step by step on how to lock up these monster deals. You got to invest in it. Go to nolimitssalesystem.com to go and check that out today. If you want to buy it direct, you can go to nolimitssalesystem.com/backdoor. Or you could piece together this podcast and get it for free over time. But I tell you what, that system is going to sure save you some time, energy, money. Is going to put a lot more money in your pocket. So I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I will talk to you on the next episode.